Well, it's good to see you guys again. Um, I am finished another very interesting conversation, and it started with a discussion of two stories by Charles Eisenstein. The old story, what he says, probably how we um, thought about health and how the stories about how we should do it is health comes through control over the body, the genes, the environment, and human interactions. The main thing here is control, that we can make it obey us. Well, anybody who's trying to diet or exercise knows that your body just has its own ideas. And to some degree, the body responds. But just because we thought it was a good idea, or a certain diet or a certain exercise program, doesn't mean that the body thinks that's really good for us. Or it doesn't move with what the body needs and the whole constellation of what the body needs. If you have been, I was thinking of, I've learned a lot of Chinese Qigong work when I was younger, and how they look at the impact of, your food, your diet, the herbs you take, the acupuncture, the body work, where you live, all these factors, season of the year, to try and get a handle on what it is that's best for a particular human being. And that's a very detailed, very complex system. When you think about it today, when new diets come out or new exercise programs, they're never tailored for the individual. So we really don't learn to pay attention to things on an individual level. So I think we all agree that we've had a high level of, I can control this, or I should be able to control this. And with the environment, we can do what we want with the environment, is what we thought. At least us Western people did. So that is not going to work for the future. This issue of not paying attention to the complexity of human relationships, of the human body, of the relationship to the environment or the animals and beings that were within those, the waters and the mountains and valleys and deserts. So as a way to approach living a sustainable way on this planet, the old story didn't work. But here's the new story. He says health comes through aligning our interventions with the innate intelligence of the body and bringing health to soil, water, and the rest of life, which requires a whole different viewpoint, because in the control model, you decide that whatever comes in your head is what should be done. In the aligning our interventions with innate intelligence of something means that we have stepped outside and said, what does it need? We have observed a body at its particular age and location. We observe an environment and what its needs are, without us thinking that we know best. And that seems to be the kind of the crux of thing, is that human beings kind of always thought they were so much more intelligent than anything else. And we're the only species that doesn't act according to, leaving the earth and the waters or wherever you are in the same condition that you were born into it. We think our manipulations of the environment would benefit us and wouldn't hurt anybody else. And down the line, like here in Colorado, we have all these mines that are leaking chemicals into the water system. So it might not have impacted the guy who owned the mine 100 years ago, but it's there impacting the people who live near that water today. And that's the other problem with control, is you're usually in a very finite bubble. So we're looking to create a way of being in the world by human beings that make it more sustainable for all species and all organisms and all beings on this planet. There's a documentary going on with PBS that says the human footprint. And he talks And in the advertisement, he says there's only one species that impacted the life of every other species on this planet, and that's human beings. And so that's because human beings thought they knew best. And if they just decided something should be, then they acted on that, whether or not the evidence was there. And what we're saying now is, because when he uses a term called aligning our interventions, it means that before we intervene to create something, hopefully bringing it back to a greater whole, we pay attention to so many more factors than we have been paying attention to. The process of redaction really, which is making something as simple as possible, hurt our thinking. We need to be aware of, we usually need to use more whole system thinking, where we're looking at how everything operates, interrelating with itself, everything else at the same time. And it is a more complicated thinking pattern, and we can do it. I believe that we have the intelligence to do that. We have to ask the questions, and we always have to step back and say, what did I not pay attention to? What needs to be included in this intervention or this action that will not create greater harm and will bring everything to a greater whole? That's what is before my generation, the younger generations, and the children rising. They're going to have to create a world where that it thinks differently than we did, that doesn't look at control and power, but looks at working together in a relationship. One of the gals I was talking to today coined a phrase called relational transparency, which means that people tell the truth to each other about what they're dealing with. And in that telling the truth, this is my, what I can't do, what I'm having a problem to, the habit I can't get out of, the new habit I can't take, I haven't been taking on. People connect to us as human beings, and they gain more compassion for themselves. I'm working with a company called Quantum Bioengineering, Sandra Fernandez out of the Sahara Desert, but she works worldwide, but she uses connections to the heart and using geometries, sacred geometries, to help impact how the body works within itself, with the environment, and then working with the environment and how they relate to that sacred geometry, and how you can shift patterns of energies being held in different locations or within the human body. And it's amazing to see how that technical work does in fact open up different parts of the human body, my human body, to be more in alignment with what this body can be or wants to be. I don't know if it wants as much as it's willing to help me survive. All our bodies are willing to help us survive, but oftentimes we don't listen to them about what they need because we're listening to a lot of outside voices. So when I'm thinking of complexity, I'm thinking what comes to mind is the Taoist people who looked at like 10 or 12 different factors that you had to take into consideration when you decided how they would intervene, or an individual could intervene and make a shift in their own health. And it had everything to do with the seasons of the year, the diet that they were using, the acupressure they may be having, the exercise program they be having, and a dozen other items. And when you get all of those matrix working of being aware of all the different pieces, then if I change this one thing, possibly now this constellation of relationships will change. And that kind of demonstrates tensegrity, where you can change something. And if it builds the relationship, then you have a much stronger model for the body or for the environment to live in. And one of these things of the new story in creating a sustainable culture for the future is that we have to pay attention to the health of the land, to the health of the waters, and the health of most of nature. And when we do that, when we pay attention to the complex, multiple factors involved in bringing health back to the land and to the waters and to nature, then we have a chance to use this good mind of ours to create new ways of being that will make a sustainable future for our children and grandchildren. Good conversation on this, and I know I jump from place to place to place, but mostly it's because I think the key words, it used to be about power and control and that we knew best because we were so intelligent. And now it's about to create a sustainable future for the future for all people, all animals, all marine creatures, all insects, all rocks, all soil, all waters. We got to step back and look at the intelligence that's been operating within the unity of Mother Nature and start to understand the complexity of it and intervene only when we know, or keep intervening in the small ways that will build the health of the waters, the land, nature, and others, and build the health in our relationships. And everything's at a critical point right now. And we have to shift. We have no choice. If we want our children and grandchildren to be grandparents and great grandparents, then, and we want those children rising to have beautiful futures, we got to do something about it now. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back with you next week. Bye-bye.